It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Know who to let in your inner circle.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Money is one of those taboo topics that people don't like to talk about. They don't like to really divulge. Yet somehow we end up letting folks who really have no merit influencing that part of our life step in and start influencing that part of our life. It just seems sort of crazy to me that's the way that it happens.
And we're talking about, go ahead and be as transparent as possible. CPAs, financial managers, advisors, all these things come in and they are going to care, but they're going to come in and help you. But the truth of the matter is, and this is what I have to tell small business owners all the time, no one is going to care about your financial well-being as much as you do. So there's nothing wrong with outsourcing and bringing in support advisors and people to tell you. But if you don't have some basic understanding of what's going on in your financial household, you are just ripe for the picking of getting taken advantage of or just being led astray.
And one of the things that happens with us all the time is we'll have someone who reaches out to us and says, "Hey, I want you guys to help me with my financial planning. I just want to give you the money and you take it over." And we're always like, whoa, that's not actually the way that we work. We don't think that when we work with a client, we just take it over and we're in charge. What we try to do is we try to sit down next to our clients, help you design a plan that makes sense, that you understand, and then work through that. Because if you're someone who's not knowledgeable about what's going on, what the decisions are that are taking place in your financial situation and why it makes the most sense for you, you're setting yourself up that maybe you get hold of a crook, maybe a shyster gets in your inner circle, and it just doesn't end in a good place. So you have to be in the know. We say all the time, Brian, our best clients and some of our most fulfilling and favorite clients to work with are the educated clients who actually want to understand what they have going on.
Yeah, and after we share some of these celebrity mistakes, we actually are going to give you some questions you ought to ask somebody that you let in that inner circle. So let's kind of jump into these. I thought this one I didn't realize it was going to be so relevant to what's going on right now, but the first one is actually Billy Joel. Now, man, I got to tell you, we had to work.
Hold on, that's Billy Joel?
Yeah, we had to work long and hard to find this picture. And I want you to, remember how I told you I'm watching 70s movies now? Because I love, when he showed up to this photo shoot, they're like, "Oh, Billy, thank God you showed up with that leather jacket. Wait, do you have the half-burnt cigarette?"
Yes, cigarette on.
This is going to work out just swimmingly well. So this picture is a time capsule. And look, we can pick on Billy for this looks ridiculous. But in a minute, I'm going to show you why it's all working.
Yeah.
But Billy Joel, because he let the wrong people in his inner circle, his manager, his former brother-in-law, siphoned supposedly $90 million from Billy Joel. He's obviously, the piano man's good at making money. He just wasn't good at keeping it at this time in his life.
And I think he even said this about it. He said, "I stayed away from it on purpose because I thought it would compromise my artistry. I didn't even want to get involved in that nerdy finance, inner stuff, because I just felt like I was a creative, I was an artist, I'd have someone else manage that." You just can't do that. When it comes to your personal finances, you already said it, Brian, no one is going to care about your situation more than you do. So you can't be someone who just buries your hand in the sand and completely ignores it.
Now, the rest of the story is that, because who knows if it was really $90 million, but I can tell you the rest of the story is he sued his former brother-in-law, and Weber ended up paying, and that's the brother-in-law, paid him $250,000 and then filed bankruptcy. So a lot of money lost because Billy Joel let the wrong person in his inner circle and wasn't paying attention to it. I think it's interesting. I just put this on there for my own entertainment.
Well, I'm not a child of this generation. I don't even, what is it? Is that
No, Billy Joel's a little bit, he's older than me. So, this
60s,
is my childhood.
Okay,
and then, so it's not like
I'm not a child of that generation.
Like we went to school together.
So when I saw this, I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's not the Billy." And you said to me, like, whoa. No, this thing worked and I'll prove it to you. And I was like, "Okay, prove it."
And by the way, Christy Brinkley, Dancing with the Stars premiered this week. And, she's still a very attractive person. I don't, and, she got hurt, daughter. Now, they're not still married. And by the way, it was not Christy Brinkley's brother that stole from Billy Joel. Billy Joel's been married a number of times. Just so you know, he was not done. After him and Christy Brinkley were done, he married again. He's moved on several other times. So I just want that to be. I can tell you some stories about that later when I did show prep.
I know nothing about this.
But it is one of those things. Guys, I took piano lessons all through my childhood. my mom should have shown me something like this. This would have been very motivating to definitely
to
pay
actually
attention.
take piano a little
Anybody
more
who's
seriously.
Chevy Chase, Vacation, you know who Christy Brinkley is. So it's just part of my childhood. But the next one I want to talk about this is because this is Uma Thurman. You know, she had somebody who actually got her. How many people have we heard talk about stories like Bernie Madoff and, you know, pyramid schemes? Poor Uma Thurman was actually, I mean, here she is. She's successful at the pinnacle of her career, making good money, and she gets a financial advisor who puts her in a Ponzi scheme and then was actually using $7.5 million of her money for a Manhattan condo.
Yeah, you know, you even said Bernie Madoff. We could have used that example because there were so many people who got enamored with that. And we asked the question, how did so many smart people, wealthy people, intelligent people get just bamboozled by this guy? It's because they started believing something that's unrealistic. I think he said, you know, every year I make 12% and I never lose any. In the financial world, unfortunately, if it's too good to be true, there's a good chance it is. There's no get rich quick. There's no all the return with none of the risk. That's just not the way that it works. So if someone is selling you that story, red flags, spidey sense should immediately go off.
So let's talk about how you protect yourself. What's the planning opportunities here? The first thing, great resources, like they're free, like the Money Guy Show. I got some basic books. We've done content on books that people ought to go look at. But I want to go even deeper. Let's talk about understand conflicts of interest. Because here's a few easy questions you can ask any financial advisor to make sure you know that you even should be working with these. So Bo, kind of walk us through a few of these.
Yeah, and these are financial advisors you're currently working with or financial advisors you're thinking about hiring, and we'll just go through them. Question number one, how do you get paid? It's okay to ask that question directly. I know it may seem rude and it may seem like inappropriate, but if you are going to pay someone for services, you want to understand how they charge their fees and what their fees are. Question number two, are you a fiduciary advisor that is legally required to act in my best interest? There's a big difference in suitability versus fiduciary. Are they working for me or are they working for their company? You need to ask that question.
I've often said, you know, humans are suitable to eat candy bars, but no doctor or nutritionist is going to recommend that in your diet. So
Exactly right.
Big difference between suitability, which is, yeah, you're a human. You can process that. Just like, hey, yeah, you're a pulse and you make money. You could afford, even if this loses money, you're suitable for this. Versus a fiduciary is legally required to act in your best interest. Understand the difference between those two things.
Here's another really easy one. Do you have access to index funds that cost well below 20 basis points? This is one that we didn't use 10 years ago, but the landscape has changed. If your advisor doesn't have any like really low cost index funds, ask them why. Hey, why don't I own that really low cost thing that I could own? Are there any indirect payments paid for products you work with? Meaning if you recommend this product, is that company paying you something? Are you getting some sort of kickback? Here's another one. How long have you worked as an advisor? Is this a second, third, fourth, fifth career for this person and they just are getting into it because it's a default? Or is this someone who's actually dedicated to the craft and really wants to be doing it long term? What's your typical client look like? What's your advisor's expertise working with people in a similar situation to you? I don't know that you want somebody cutting their teeth on your financial situation. You want to make sure they have some experience there. And then, do you practice what you preach?
Yeah.
All the things you're telling me to do with my finances, are you in fact doing those things? This strategy you told me about, is that something that you're doing? If it is, why did it make sense for you? If it's not, why did it not make sense for you?
So after you go through the questions of what to ask a financial advisor or somebody you're dealing with money, I think it's important because this goes beyond just financial advisors. You need to have checks and balances on access. Mm-hmm. I was always amazed when I worked in public accounting how many people would give you their online credentials for their checking account. It's different from like a retirement account or other things where you can't really get access to the money until you reach a certain age. But there are people that are just letting, you know, bookkeepers have checkbooks and other things. So you need to control checks and balances on who has access to writing checks in your business, writing checks for your household. Right. Because that is where sometimes things can go aloof, and before you know it, you find out that somebody is siphoning money. That's what you wonder, how do all these celebrities have millions going out the door? The reason is they had the wrong people in and they had no limits on checks and balances of who had access to the money. That's so right. You see people, you can imagine somebody who's hungry, struggling, or maybe has made some bad lifestyle decisions, whether through gambling or other things, and they see this pot of money there and they're like, hey, Billy probably doesn't care. He's got money rolling in. He won't notice if I take 100,000 here, 200, and before you know it, $90 million is siphoned out. But it is one of those things that you got to pay attention to who has access. Even if you're not rich and famous, these principles can help you tremendously in your financial life.